said this. Simplicity of thought is not wisdom. Simplicity of action is virtue. Simplicity of action is virtue, but simplicity of thought is not. Don't think simple. Life is complex, it is layered because today I'll be talking about mental models, worldviews. You have to pursue aggressively to build your mental or to think in a complex form. Nothing is simple. And most of the times we've shaded ourselves. Most of this usually most people will pick one side, but sometimes there's a side to it that might make you see the wisdom or sometimes of another side. The world is very divided. Everybody has their own side. But what if there is wisdom in the other side? On a normal day, but in order to arrive at that wisdom, you need to think more complex than the average simple thinking. You know what another word for a fool is? A simpleton. Don't- Another word for a fool is a simpleton. Yes. Simplistic thinking is sometimes is foolishness. The life is not simple. Now, I'm starting with this conversation because I want to introduce you to mental models that will give you a framework to think complex thoughts. That if you're thinking of solutions, you're not bringing the regular one. Oh no, a simplistic way of looking at this is these people are bad people. You're not thinking about the victim. In order to protect the victim, you might even do more worse. Our society, we have people with good intention but no results because their thinking is too simplistic. It does not really drive at the core. But this can help you in everything. There's one story I heard of. How's it called? In a country where I think HIV/AIDS was spreading very fast, so they decided to um, do an ad to curtail it. And the advertisement is they will tell you all the dangers of HIV. They will make HIV people look like a very bad, you know. Of course, you want people to be afraid of it so that they will look for themselves. But they discovered that it did not make it easier; it made it worse because somehow people that first stigmatized, they want everybody to have it too. A solution make things worse. People that had it, they will sexually abuse people. I don't know that you get what I'm saying. But sometimes are you getting how sometimes in this talk there's not always provide solution. I say, do you directly you think as if that is the solution. I wish I reviewed the story before I came here. But I think they adopted another solution. Um, I think more about educating people. There was more compassion in the society. Education was more than scaring people. And that was the entire solution. But in our society, you think as if the solutions are, but sometimes to find solutions, you need complex thinking. And that's one of the things we lack in Africa, particularly. So, like I said, first of all, is I want you to learn to think not complicated. Complex is not complicated. Complex is layered thinking. You have a framework for your thoughts. I get what I'm saying. Good. If I ask you what's your opinion on this, let this what you are saying, let it capture my mind that this one is an uncommon thinker. People do debate. Usually, you should ask yourself, there is the usual debate, there is a usual argument. How can I treat this from a different angle that will make people understand it more, see it in a better light? What I'm saying, simplistic thinking will not take us anywhere. And in order to move from simplistic thinking, you have to, in a way, the lens in which you see life must change. Now, the second part of it is that I want you to be willing to look at ideas that are opposed to what you grew up with. Most of the times we zero out ideas that is not what we thought was normal, but there's a lot of wisdom in the opposite. For instance, now someone that was is born in a particular religion, there is the likelihood of them changing is very hard. Why? Because not many people are who open their eyes to look at what is in the other end. Everybody thinks they are right. But as a society, if we can all evaluate honestly and say, okay, let me look at since these people are so committed to it, let's look at it based on merit. People will move towards the right side. Not that I'm not going to find out what the right side is. You get what I'm saying? But not many people have, most of us, we are stuck with what we are born with. Now, let me ask you another question. Um, do you think someone that grows up in a village, has a better life than someone that grew up in the city? And in other words, are people in the city better than people in the village? No? Okay. So before you give me your argument, if you had to reverse time, that all your life till now you'll be in the village, will you accept it?
Depending actually
On what?
on, let's say, because when it comes to
Mm,
some living aspect like healthy living, sometimes those in the village, sometimes in a way, they are exposed more to nature than
okay.
those in the city, especially congested area in
Good.
the
Good.
city. And some, like being in the city, sometimes not just, a lot of people are in the city but not educated.
Mhm.
There are some people in the village that are more educated in some certain knowledge that people in the city too sometimes don't know. So it's a two-way thing.
Mm.
There are kings in the city, in the village right now. They speak more English than those in this town or in
Okay.
the city. So, and they're making more money than those that hustle every day.
On average, do you think the average man is better? I'm not talking about those exceptions. The
Okay.
average man in the village, is he better than the average man in the city?
I'm of the opinion
Mm.
that 100 years ago,
I want Otache to say something. Otache, whether prefer. I want to hear you. You must talk today.
I'm of the opinion that 100 years ago, a man living whether in the village or city is richer than a king then. So I might not really necessarily
Mm.
say that uh, money or anything is the base or is the rule on which we base the argument. I would rather say we can look at it from also maybe, and this is my own argument. Uh, well, I feel there is more connectedness to, just as I said, nature
Mhm.
and the experience and quality of life itself.
So you think it upsets all the advantages of you being in the city?
In the well, in this it does not at the same time. I think a city has its way of compensating for those things,
Okay.
and so in a way, I will
All
not say
these
I'm
people that are trying
being
to play politics, I don't want middle ground. The simple question is, will you change the life you've lived in the city for a life in the village all your life? This one,
currently
don't try to be
or years
political.
back.
Currently. Currently.
I've never lived in a village,
Don't-
so, so I cannot
so, but you
I
know people
cannot
that
talk.
live in the village, will you
Yeah,
change places?
will I change places? No, I will not.
So you will choose city life. So why are you in between? Just
No, no. I mean,
don't worry, this is not a test of hopeless secure. I just want to get your thoughts before I move into what I was saying to you. Okay, what want to add before that? How many people would choose? Okay, let's do this. How many people would choose village life to city life? Okay, how many people would choose city life to village life? Okay, let's say from that.
Okay, so I was going through a documentary talking about the cognitive growth of humans since evolution. Science believe that humans came from all those scientific stuff, and he said that over the years, over centuries, and all that, the cognitive abilities of humans have been growing rapidly, and that we only started to have decline in 2010. So the Gen Zs are like the people who we noticed the decline in their cognitive abilities, and the reason for that decline was it was because they were exposed to technology quite early, tabs and stuff, and normally happen in very early society. And I was like, okay, yeah, I think that's true. So children who had early access to tabs and computers and screens might have a decline in their cognitive abilities. But when I started to think about how advancement, technology, city life has really impacted humanity, how humans have grown,
Mm.
industrialization, and all of those things have really added to our growth. And I would always choose city life. And a lot of people argue and say, yeah, there's nature. You can always make it happen in the city. They say they are congested. You've not gone to the city. You're not in a
Mhm.
city.
Mhm.
This is not a city.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, it's not a city. This is still a village.
Mm.
One of our clients in US, he got the coordinates of our house, online, and the map and everything, and he saw our house. It was like, you guys live in this place.
Mm.
When I saw the picture of our house on his computer, it was still a village. So I would always choose city life. Of course, there's disadvantages here and there, and all of those things. But the human society has really, really grown, and the real city life will give you almost everything that you think you'd have in the
Mm.
village life. Medicine has grown. You know, yeah, everything has grown. Housing, light, these things are incredible. If you don't
Mm.
know, and yeah, and yeah, I mean, it makes life better. I am better than almost everybody in my village. The quality of life I have is better than theirs.
Mm.
And you say they eat food, good food, and all of those things. I can argue that I can get the same food too. I just need to buy from a better vendor and all of those things. So I can get almost everything they're getting and more from where I am.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Listen, you see talk. Anyone that say village life is very hypocritical. Because that's why I asked the question directly. Why change your life is one that grew up in a village? Will you accept it? Listen, most of you, the money you are making. So some in the average village, eh? You like this now, you might look poor in the city, but in the village, if someone is not making the richest person that receiving salary is not receiving quarter of what you are receiving. Quarter. Now, I ask not because of the argument itself. Of course, city life is far better. But I want you to see Nigeria as a village in the global perspective. Do you hear what I said? I like that information that the guy was saying it's a village. But that was the perspective change I want you to have. Someone in the village will be contented with his life, but doesn't know the possibility that he's missing. Do you know the how beautiful technology is? How it has improved our life? Sometimes all the hot water, all the luxury of communicating, looking for opportunities outside here. So, in the global perspective, do you know that Nigeria is a village? Do you know that? There are times that I just wish to be outside Nigeria because I want to be around a system that works. But of course, I know I'm going to be here for a long time. You know, but because Nigeria is a village, compare in the global sense. So sometimes you are thinking that you're in the city self, compared to what you are missing. You can look at someone in the village and say, okay, someone has missed because they've not been exposed to the opportunities of a city, of a more organized life. Then also, you can see how some people's life are very impoverished. Eh? Their life revolves around get married, get a farm, shaken. And that is why it's not coincidence that the average teenager in the village is getting pregnant because what is there? Their life is so constrained and so narrow. And I want to use this analogy to compare that one of the major difference between a village and a city is how streamlined their exposure to ideas are. I get what I'm saying. Being streamlined to few ideas impoverish your life. For instance, now, if you grew up in a village, all the ideas that comes to you is chance going to be the average of the ideas in the environment. But if you come to the city, you get exposure to different ideas because all of you are not coming from the same place. I get what I'm saying. Yeah. Now, I'm saying that even in the context of Nigeria, sometimes our ideas are so limited compared to the global world. One of the ways you can transcend your immediate environment is to expose yourself to ideas beyond your environment. Do you understand the analogy I'm giving you? I'm not encouraging you to leave Nigeria, but the major difference between a village and a city is that, and that's why most of the times villages mean so because there's one way of thinking on a general note. But in the city, the more urban a place is, the more ideas have to clash. And where you have access to more ideas, the better option you have of choosing what is better. Guys, I get what I'm saying. Someone that grew up in a village, their standard of an ideal man might be a very broken man. What is ideal to them is a very broken man. But by the time small exposure happens, you know, especially you talk about how men go to the village to carry women. Then when they come to city, their eyes open. And then they start, or when Nigerian men carry their wives abroad, Jesus, their eyes open at the beginning. Now, I'm not the advocate for broken families, but but perhaps before now they're setting for you because you are the best of what the environment pointed out. Don't be that kind of. It sounds insensitive, but I want us to be honest with ourselves that based on the global standard, you know, there's always something better.
All is our
Yeah, it's great. I didn't even think of that. You know, sometimes they settle because that is what is ideal for them. When they come and they start seeing your brokenness and you are not willing to change, you want something better in a sense. But if you don't point to yourself and tell yourself that you are in a village, your ideas about women, about family, sometimes is village thinking. But there's a global world out there that sometimes the way to transcend your environment is to expose yourself to these ideas. Because I'm going to talking about major worldviews. But what I want to do is because I can't talk of all of them, expose yourself to worldviews. Worldview is how you see the world beyond your village way of thinking. Guys, are you together? And by village, I'm saying that in a context, you are still in a village. And the only way you can make your life better, even though you are physically here, is to expose yourself to a global way of thinking. And there's no one way of thinking. Are we together? Even if you live here, but you understand the foundation of what we are saying, strive to find different worldviews from what you've been exposed to. You can easily settle for mediocrity as ideal. So you need to act, evaluate the way you think, your perspective about. Last year we talked about the first unwritten rule of life is what?
It's roots in life.
There are laws of life. If you don't know them, you always suffer the consequence. Hmm? And when we are talking, because there are laws, be a student of life, investigate truth. Almost everything is a worldview. There's a worldview you have of what a man is. If I ask you, tell me who is a man, you discover that you don't even know a lot because you've not. That's why be a student of philosophy of life itself. If I ask you who is God, chances are you spit out the worldview that you've been fed. Sometimes what you know is different from how you live. Sometimes you even ask, what is my worldview based on my actions? What do I truly believe in? You know that even within religion, there are different worldviews. Hmm? But imagine if someone is born in a particular denomination and they think that is the entirety of life. When even you, that all of you believe in the same thing, but the way you see the same thing is very different. And the idea is not to say there is necessarily right and wrong, but the idea is to tell you that be open to consider other worldviews. Your own might be limited. Sometimes consider another worldview doesn't mean you're abandoning yours, but it's enriching your own. How many of you have ever studied what Buddhism is? You are scared, but sometimes studying it is not necessarily that you are born a Christian, but to make you appreciate the treasures of the truth in your own faith. I don't know how you get what I'm saying. You can understand, okay, what are the similarities? Oh, the Bible talks about this. Okay, what makes it different? These are the things that even builds conviction in you. Most of the times, we are trying to block every worldview that is different from our own.
At some point, I was asking myself, if Jesus came from from Israel,
Mm.
why? And I did it few research, and I found out that Christianity is one of the least practiced religion in
Mhm.
Israel. And why do we have Jews, like of course the Jews in Israel, that, and then even Islam has a more roots in Israel than Christianity. You know, and I started to learn a little bit about Judaism and how the Jews and all of those things, and it got me thinking a lot. I'm still reading and all that stuff. Yeah. So I mean, just to support that fact of investigating and going outside a little bit of what you already know to prove or concretize what you already know. Do you understand? Because what you already know without proof and mental concretization, it's false. You're just hanging on a balance that is does not have weight. So if you can try not to doubt but investigate these things, Christianity, where it came from, how the originators and all of those things, very crucial. So yeah, I agree.
Thank you, sir. Mm. Guys, are you following? Because you know, if you don't really question, see, God is not afraid of your questions. I've always told you that. With the handle spirituality, don't be afraid of asking the questions. Some of these things you're afraid of asking, there is answers. But deep within you, if you know that you're not asking the right questions, there will be doubt in your heart. I get you what I'm saying. Last year, so let me just go back to it because we'll discuss some worldview. I think last year I saw someone criticizing. So he was writing about how Charlie Kirk was racist. And to tell the truth, I know that most people knew him when he died, but I've been following him a long time, and I've always been awed by his ministry. He's an incredible person. So I asked him, "What are your proofs?" No proof. Sometimes one just want to sound different or sound elitist in a sense. No argument. Then he was talking. He sent a video about Charlie Kirk talking about how the black culture is not enabling, you know. And I said, how is that being racist? Now, I'll talk about two things today: worldviews, mental models, and logical fallacies. We'll get there. But logical fallacies, logical is how to think logically. If you can identify error in thinking. Now, the fact that if a white man thinks he's better than a black man, you think it is racist. Now, I'm not saying that he did. Eh? Why not? Why not? Well, that's what racism is. Yes. I like Kingsley's question. He said, in what way? If someone thinks they're better than you biologically, in fact, even that is not a conclusive proof of racism. Blacks are better than most white people athletically. Is that a biological difference? If a black man says that, as long as there is empirical evidence, is that racist? If a black man says, because black men are dominating the sport, that is data itself. Is that not so? But what if a white man says his culture is better? Does that make him racist? Instead of sometimes just go into emotional mode, ask how, in what way? You know what I'm saying? So I said, first of all, we cannot all be equal. One has to be better. Yeah? You think so? Nobody is equal. We're equal in what? But not in abilities, not in capabilities. I've always told you that, yes, but not in abilities, not in cognitive abilities, skill sets. In fact, what makes you special is your difference. Am I equal with you? In what I am. In fact, there's even a spiritual maxims that captures this. We're equal in fellowship, but not in graces. You get what I'm saying? There's that equality of fellowship, but our graces are not the same. Some people have developed their giftings and their graces more than others. Some people have it in a different direction. Now, so sometimes when I compare, now what I'm saying is the white man culture has a better outcome, a better result of life. If you have a better culture, we should have better outcomes. I'm not saying that there are no good things about Africans. I get it, but on average, the white man's system is better. Now, I'm not saying you should agree with me because I say you can disagree, but let it make you think. Go to black communities even in America. Now, what makes their culture better is not biological. It is based on their systemic values, what they value. On average, I feel that the white man has value for human life than the black man. Now, years ago, it might have been different. Now it's changing also with them being more liberal about abortion, for instance. Now, it's showing that their word for human life is reduced. But in Africa, the reason why our leaders, a lot of killings is happening and they don't say anything is because somehow it's showing the kind of value you put on human life. Yeah? Do you know that some of the major terrorist events in the world, if you hear the numbers of people that die, you'll be shocked. You hear and so massacre, so massacre. But in Nigeria, you see hundreds of people will be killed. Sometimes the people that die in some of the attacks, they'll be less than 20, but they'll make an entire event out of it. But in Africa, entire community will be wiped, and it looks like you just woke up for another day. Hmm? Now, so in a way, so listen, and one of the reasons why I feel, listen, their system on collectively is better is because they are more open to borrowing other ideas, unlike Africans. You know, we always want to stick with what we know as society. Them, particularly, they are passionate about learning and growing. So they adopt other culture very fast. And remember, I said the difference between a village and a city is what? Exposure to ideas. In the village, the ideas in the village are more streamlined than in the city. So because there are many ideas, generally the outcome is usually better. You are bringing your own perspective and bring my own perspective. Together it is better holistically. I get what I'm saying. Now look at in their own thinking compared to why I say African also a village in a sense is because sometimes we are not so open to ideas, to learning. But one of their systemic values is that they are more open to adopting other cultures. Sometimes we say, I know they steal. Why won't you steal? By stealing, like, is that they carry ideas from other people, but it's enriching their lives. The idea of democracy is not American, it is not Britain, it is a Greece concept. They borrowed it from history. Okay, let's apply it. They borrow culture of food. Even the varieties of food that are available in the Western world, you can see that they borrow a lot from other cultures. Why? Because they are open to other worldviews. In fact, this in the Western world, the religions, they practice more diverse religion compared to Africa. That's why everything I own is very streamlined, for better or for worse. Guys, are you together? Good. So what is my point? Expose yourself to ideas. Ideas that are different from you. Guys, are we together? Now, don't take my word as law. I want you that sometimes if you disagree with something, let me hear your own opinion. Let me hear your own thoughts. You know. So today, like I said, I'll be talking about first of all the best worldviews that you should consider learning about. Then some mental models that you should build into your framework of thinking, so that you're not a simplistic thinker. I get what I'm saying. Then lastly, we'll talk about logic and fallacies very fast. Who can give me an example of some worldviews you know about? You know that Christianity is so worldviews can be religious, can be political, can be economic. So for instance, I will not talk about everything, I'll just highlight some ones that you should consider. Like economic worldviews. Who can give me an example? Capitalism, socialism, communism, fascism. These are all ways of okay, yes. Some of them border into okay, these are more political systems they might join. For instance, now a socialist worldview is that what everything should be shared equally. Do you understand the difference? Do you know what socialism is? The idea is that what? Yes, it does not matter who is contributing more. How many people like that system? No. Politically, they are communist, but then economically, they are capitalist. So, a real communist state, they are not a real communist state. In fact, all communist and socialist states has failed. The idea is that nobody can possess wealth by themselves. Everything belongs to the state. So if you are making more money, you cannot keep it. It belongs to the state. Now, this will discourage productivity. Why will I work for another person? There's this funny story. It's just a funny point. A chicken in a farm asks the pig, the cow, and the goat to come and help her farm uh, grain, barley for bread. All of them said they were busy. The chicken planted her barley. The chicken asked the goat, the pig, and the cow, come and help me harvest. Everybody said he was busy. The chicken went and harvested it by themselves. The chicken asked the goat, the pig, and the cow, come and help me bake this bread. All of them said they were busy. And she did it herself. When she wanted to, everybody came and said, it is not fair. You should give us our own share. And the bird said, and the hen said, I did the planting, I did the harvesting, I did the making of the bread. Therefore, it belongs to me. And the cow, the pig, and the goat, cow, fowl, and they called the government. And the government said it is fair to share everything equally. So they shared it equally, and everybody was happy. But nobody planted, and there was no bread anymore. So you can deceive yourself that equality in that sense, everybody will be happy. But the next person, next time, they will not make bread, would they? And the state, if they catch you, they'll say it's their own property. Now, worldview of socialism, it breeds victims. No, you see how people hate billionaires, but they're providing more value to the society than, you know, the simple truth that most people would not like to admit. The extent of your wealth is not the extent of your value as a person, but it's the extent of your value to society most of the times. Do you know how Dangote has made life for Nigerians easier? Do you know how, because some people are billionaires, there are some research that only billionaires take the risk to do. You know that billionaires have advanced humanity because they have the money to, you know how much they invest in R&D, research and development. But most of the times, the world is entitled. Now, it is a worldview that can be operating your mind. You are so entitled. You get what I'm saying? Oh, and you can see it. Now, I'm talking about an economic system. There are political systems. Fascists where you can't criticize the government. The government is law. There is another political system of monarchy where you are ruled by a king. Theocracy, like the Vatican now. The Pope is head of the Vatican. And these are all worldviews. Before you settle on the one that you choose, democracy is a political worldview. Which one works? So all of them. So choosing a worldview doesn't mean that it is even bad or it is even good. It just that it is more effective than others. Democracy is not perfect. Do you know why this story of, is it Mali or yeah? What are your opinions of him? He's doing well. Why do you think that?
Then two things, based on what I saw on social media,
Mm.
at least he was able to shut out some of the communications from those white people that come and steal their resources and stuff like that. He shut them out. And their makings of their resources.
Personally, I've never liked that man.
Wow.
Not because I know that the public, but the truth is that in a military rule, you won't hear the truth. Someone that is very wise can, censorship. Somehow it seems as if a corrupted democracy is. Today, all of us can go and make fun of Buhari and I call Buhari to order. But in a military dictatorship, they've sacrificed a lot of freedom. How many, you think that media will go and say this president is doing very bad? And they say absolute power what? Corrupts. Now, you are only see what you are seeing in social media, but in truth, is it true?
I don't have not confirmed.
Good. So, in a sense, it might look as if the system is better, but in practice, no matter how bad our democracy is, it is far preferably than a military rule. Already, soldiers they don't even have military rule. You see how they abuse people. Imagine if they are the ones in power. Have you heard about soldiers assaulting women? No, they're law. See, don't ever wish. Sometimes you look at what's happening, let the military do take over. It cannot be better. But the average person, you're easily carried by public opinion. I'm not saying that they are wrong, but sometimes, first of all, what is the worldview that is dominant? I'm teaching you how to think. I get what I'm saying. No matter how bad democracy is, so far it seems as if it's a more better functioning. At least you can even hear your opinions. The majority matters. It's not that it's always practical, like in Nigeria. Election doesn't always. You see what I'm saying. Now, worldviews are the way people think. The system of value system you've adopted. That's just the foundation I'm laying. There's different political worldview. There's economic worldview. Guys, I'm introducing you to how to study complex things. Don't just listen to motivation. There are people that think about freedom, but you can't even think about freedom if you don't understand how the world really works politically. So sometimes exposing yourself to different worldviews, it expands the kind of songs you write. When people write about love, it's because that's the only thing they know. But sometimes people will write songs about trying, about deep human emotions, feeling, trying and failing. You see the quality of their songs. Someone like Eminem, he will sing, what's their song? The idea of take seize opportunity. It's from his movie. These are themes in songs that you not see in the average Nigerian song. Nigerian song is what? The more you expose yourself, the more kind of your creativity is enriched self. Most of the times, your idea of technology is how you create a service that will make money for you. Sometimes people are thinking of technology on how to solve problems. Sometimes they're applying to technology to things that you never even thought about. So now, let me just run through some world systems, some worldviews. So it can be political, even political. You've heard about the right and left in America, conservative and liberal. Have you heard about the conservative and the liberal? Okay, good. So expose yourself. So mostly in the world generally, the major, especially in the Western world, the major divide is between, they call them the left and the right. The left are the liberals. Most of the times it seems more progressive. Not necessarily they are. There are the people that are for LGBT, abortion mostly, because they are liberal, like society is progressing. That's the whole worldview. They are more socialist in a sense, but conservative are more patriotic. They are more, by conservative, they are protecting traditions, the normal
Is it
family.
dividing the world, the African side and the other
Now I'm
side?
talking of in the Western side.
That's like
Most Africans are conservative in a sense. No, yes.
so yes, point.
Hmm?
Previously, I realized that previously blacks were liberal. A lot of them were liberal.
So the lines are shifting too. Sometimes people that are liberal now, some liberal ideas are not in the right in a sense, because the left are going very far. They're the ones that are saying they are more. You will likely be for more of a man can be a woman. A child can transition. You know what I'm saying? These are things that are happening in the world. I know some of you, you see some of these things, you are scrolling very fast because you're not relating to them. But sometimes just wait and listen. Okay, what's these people saying? And somehow I found out that the right are more logical. Because most of the left are avoiding arguments. You ask them, what's a woman? How many have you seen interviews? You ask you, and they don't want to explain it.
It's okay, and just say
Yes.
Yeah. These are all worldviews. Don't be ignorant of what is happening in the world. Sometimes you are meeting people. Sometimes someone's worldview will tell you a lot about them. The left hits billionaires.
But sometimes listening to all these things can corrupt your own kind of
Listen to it.
because by the time you see their logics, everything will make so much sense that if you are not careful, your mindset too
Okay,
can corrupt
good.
it.
Now, listen. Truth stands out. So the idea is don't drink little. If you are going to drink, drink deep. So don't just expose yourself to shallow arguments. If something trips you, okay, if it's making sense, go and listen. Okay, what is it that they're actually saying? If this helps you as a complex thinker, for instance, now, if you ask me, what do I think about the idea that people are the idea of a man and woman is a social construct that is not real. Someone can choose to be a woman, and they say that one person can be they multiple. So someone say my pronouns. Heard about pronouns? Have any of you heard about pronouns? You hear I am he, he.
He, her. Me, me, them. Yes, me.
He, him, she, her, they, them. Now, now, see, the idea of finding worldviews is not even to choose a side. Sometimes, if you want to convince the other side, you must understand their own point. But sometimes you must concede to the extent that they are right. I hear. Sometimes, to what extent are they right? Do you know that our spirit has no gender?
Yes.
Hmm? Do you know that? Do you know that God has no gender? He prefers to be called Father, but His spirit.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Now, the normal person will just discard all their ideas. But however, yeah, however, it does not mean that. So in a way, you are conceding. You'll listen to you more. That to an extent, what you are saying is true, but it does not apply to the biological person. What I'm saying is anti-biblical. Sometimes when you choose to just take a side, you close the other side. For instance, on abortion. Who is for abortion here?
Like you can abort.
Yes.
I'm kind of in between.
Now, arguing all of this will not change someone's mind from medical perspective whether the child is really alive or not. When you fall to it, now the two sides are called. One is called what? Pro-choice. One is called pro-life. So one are saying that the the ability and the freedom of the woman to make a choice is more important than the potential of a child. But the pro-life argument is that life is more important than choice. Now, you can't say choice is not important. But one of the ways that you can even differentiate it is the idea that what's the motive? One is driven by selfish means, and one is driven by the idea that sacredness of life. Again, let me tell you something. Just, just, just shouting at someone that aborts a child, they won't solve it. Sometimes connect with them. If you are trying to be right, you can't change someone's opinion. Right? Now, the society has not made it easier. People would rather choose, for instance, in the African setting, as a lady, most people, because of the stigma of having maybe unwanted pregnancy. How many of you have ever seen a single mother and said it took courage to keep this child instead of screaming? But the natural thinking is what? A shower. Or all of us makes mistakes. That also. But in a way, we believe that someone without a child is better than someone that gives a child. So in a society, even if we say that we're not in support of abortion, we're encouraging it because we punish people that paid the price or took the choice of the other road. It's not an easy thing. You can't just and people make mistakes. Sometimes you do it out of fear. You can say it's evil and the rest of the things, but sometimes you have to just be sympathetic. Guys, I get what I'm saying. Let me just rush it. What's it? How many minutes do I have? 10. Okay. So I'll just read different worldviews that I think it's worth consideration. How many people have heard of Stoicism? Stoics. What is it about? An idea. I said you've heard. I didn't say you know, so don't worry about making a mistake.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So it was made popular by Marcus Aurelius. I think he was an emperor, and then Epictetus too. And the idea is that life is not really unfair, it's just indifferent, you know. So in a sense, control what you can, accept what you can't. Sometimes we think that when bad things happen, it's personal, but sometimes it is not. So in a sense, Stoicism is a practice of a way of a world where it helps you regulate your emotions even in the midst of troubles. Now there's a disadvantage to it in the sense that sometimes it makes you too plastic, unemotional. But sometimes maturity will require you sometimes to handle life unemotional. You don't allow your emotion up and down because you are going through things. So sometimes it gives you a level of control. I think the ideas, might be. So if you go online now, type Stoicism, or you come across quotes like this, think it's worthy, okay. They have powerful ideas. The same way, like I said, it might not be religious, because Christianity is a worldview. In the global space, it might be a religion, but then it's a worldview. What is the worldview about? Love, sacrifice, divine purpose, divine perspective. You can see what the Christian worldview is about. Center of it is a worldview. So if you are selling Christianity to other people, you are saying that okay, this worldview will help you love, it will help you find divine purpose, give you divine internal perspective. So Stoicism, there is a Christian worldview, there is a capitalist and free market worldview. That's how, like I said, sometimes unconsciously we have socialist mindset. But sometimes studying, okay, how does the capitalist system works? Because whether you like it or not, you are operating a capitalist system. If you don't know the rules, you'll be left behind. There's a system thinking where they believe that everything is connected. Problems are highly isolated. Sense that if you have problem in one of your life, it's connected to another thing in your life. It can be connected to the product of your mindset. Your mindset is connected to your environment. Your environment is connected to history. So life is like I said, everything is connected. And it's a very important worldview that will help you. There's a scientific and rationalist worldview. You know, science is not the enemy of religion. It's not the enemy of God. Mm. But then the worldview, particularly, is everything is materialistic. It's not good, but then there are some lessons you can learn from being scientific in your approach in things. That's why I said, exposing yourself to these ideas, not swallow it hooks, line, and sinker, but listen and understand where the boundaries are. Sorry, there's no time to explain. So I'll just list mental models for you. Um, Model models is how to think that will enrich you. There is first principles thinking. Elon Musk talks about this a lot. That to everything, they are at the core of it. That everything is a build up of these core principles. Colors. That's why you can go. He has never known anything uh, about rockets. But if you understand the first principles, you can build everything from it. Like for instance, now, what are the core first principles of a building? Maybe it might be first of all, uh, cement, steel. These are the core building blocks of every building. Is that also? And then maybe it can be the issue of balance. So I'm not an architect, but there are core principles to everything. So with the same core principles, you can raise a hut, you can raise. But then if you don't understand those core principles, you can't even build anything solid. Business has core principles. Whatever field you are doing. Sometimes if you're interested in a field, go and ask ChatGPT. What are the first principles of this field, of this thing? Opportunity cost is a mental model. It helps you think and prioritize. Leverage is a mental model. How can I do more with less? How can I build systems? How can I leverage capital, people, technology? There's a Pareto principle where it helps you become more focused. Because the Pareto principle. How many of you have heard of Pareto principle? There's no time to explain. It's the 20-80 rule. That says 80% of the result in your life is coming from 20% of your effort. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we focus 80% of our attention on the 80% that, so you don't have to give your attention to everything equally. figure out. In fact, even clients sell. Sometimes, especially people that sell, 80% of your sale might be coming from 20% of your clients. Then the remaining 80% are contributing to just 20%. So sometimes the better principle will help you streamline your attention. Compounding, is a mental model. Small gains repeated consistently creates explosive outcomes. And then there's asymmetric risk. Positioning is a mental model. How many of you have listened to me talk about positioning? Yes. Some people think value is the way the world works, and those people will struggle more. People that think positioning, they position themselves long time, they win the game. I'm saying. So these are all mental models. Everything I try to do is to give you mental models that you can approach life with. How many people know about my excellence mental model? You heard me teach this. You forgotten? Hmm? Good. So if you read my book, there is the purpose model, mental model. So all of these are mental models. And then I think I'll leave these logical fallacies. How to think logically because of time. But let me just give you, yes. So I'll just stop. But maybe as a lesson, one browse what the fallacies are. For instance, now, unless you understand how fallacies work, how logic works, you can't really think reasonably. For instance, one logical fallacy is that at homing, the idea is that just because someone you attack the person instead of the argument. For instance, you say, this person cannot teach me about God because, or maybe he says a statement, you say this person is wrong because he's doing something in his life that does not reflect that. But truth is truth, irrespective of the person that is delivering the truth. Hmm? Learn to judge truth by its own merits, not because of the person. And the opposite of it is that appeal to authority. It is right because someone said it is true. But authority does not, expert get it wrong all the time. Judge ideas based on their merits. You see how they use celebrities for advertisement, as if celebrities know any different. Because this person is supporting this product, this idea, they must be right. You're appealing to authority, or you're appealing, or sometimes on the negative senses, you're saying just because this person have a bad past, what they are saying cannot be true. Or you say this person doesn't have money, so what he's saying must be wrong about money. Live your life that you can learn from anyone. I'm older than this person, so what he's saying must be wrong. Or because this one is older, he must be right. That's bad argument. And most of the times we swallow things hook, line, and sinker because our pastor says so, because this person in authority says so, because an expert says so. You always get it all wrong. It's not value the argument based on its merit. When I speak to you, I don't want you to say that okay, it must be true because I'm telling you. Maybe because you might say it because maybe I've gained your confidence over time. You can believe what I'm saying, but carry what I'm saying based on merit. Allow yourself to think it. Okay, is this true? This is what I do. Go and even do research. That's what I'm saying. Good. I think I might change my mind to do something different next week. But the summary of today is what? Build mental models, expose yourself to ideas. There's this thing I've always said. Do you know that there is more prejudice between the black race than there is in between races? How many people understand what I said? Listen, yes. Most of the times we criticize white people for being prejudicial. They want to treat themselves better, but they feel themselves they are better. But there is more of that. We don't call it racial because I want it's not racial. But there is more prejudice within the black race. Hausa man, we think, well, we show prejudice against the Igbo man. Igbo man, are you getting in between? You hear your people say, don't marry from this place. There is more of these things. I get what I'm saying. But when it happens to us, we always crowd foul. But also, we are doing it to other people. Please, I think the goal of today is to just inspire you to think, to question, and expand your horizon. We are elite. Let's think that way. Let's produce the result of elites. Are we together? Thank you. So, any question? Just one before we close. You're all tired. Please don't worry. I know that sometimes it's very dry, but sometimes it's this type of things that will stretch you. Things that your mind is struggling to comprehend. Usually if it's on your phone you're watching this, you move to the next reel because because your mind is like, get to that exciting thing. And let's go and so and that's it, so and sing it. But guys, build your mind differently. That's what the 90% are doing. Their mind is being fried by the easy things. Don't be a simpleton. You need to feed yourself complex things. You have to put yourself towards a complex system. Thank you guys for coming.